Cove needs to put his hands on me sometime, because I'm getting sick of this. I'm getting sick of this, living like a nun in an abbey. Oh, and I were choosing the birthday moment. Alright, let's get into it. It was a pleasant afternoon. The sun shone brightly, and the breeze tugged lightly at the balloons strung around the park. You and Cove had just been dropped off at Miranda Eckert's birthday party. How old is she? 8? 13-year-olds. Do 13-year-olds get bounce houses? You didn't really know Miranda. Maybe they do. Last year was the first time you had a class with her, and everyone at school knew her as quiet. The shy girl stuck to her own friend group like glue. It had been a surprise that she was having such a big party. You looked over around the expansive park, a spacious recreation center in the next town over, and noticed a bouncy castle. Miranda had a bit of a reputation for not caring if she acted mature like other teens sometimes did. It made a certain amount of sense that her party would match that. Okay, so it's not normal for it to have a bounce house. Alright, we can get to know her better. Maybe at this party you'd have the chance to make friends with her. You were excited at the thought. You hadn't had a choice in coming here today. Your moms insisted on it after you got the invitation, as did Ko's mom and dad. Dude, can't force me to come. So both you and he were driven over to the next town with presents in tow. All the parents had been pretty firm about going to a birthday if you'd been invited. You wondered if it was an adult thing, you were happy to be here, you wished you were somewhere else? Whatever. It felt out of place. Nothing seemed to welcome you. You stood next to Cove and stared out at the chaos with a butterfly in your stomach. Not the funeral? What? Cove made a small noise which caught your attention. He looked around, scanning the area. He fidgeted with his gift in his hand.
So...
Any idea what we're supposed to do with these? I mean, there's a table over there, Cove. Just put them down. You looked at your own present and then towards the seating area. There was a table filled with snacks, drinks, and supplies for various party games. Past all that, you spotted one table in the back that seemed to have a truckload of gifts. You pointed it out to Cove. I see presents. Let's go. Cove nodded with a smile and turned to where you gestured. He saw it too. Cool. You and Cove began to walk over to the present table, flattening the well-trimmed grass beneath your feet. You walked past groups of people, classmates in semicircles, broken up into the usual friend groups, chatted away. You, or maybe Cove, received the occasional greeting or friendly nod. However, you're confused, when did you have the jerk what? No, see, that's the problem, we didn't have one. Although we definitely wanted one. However, as you passed by even more people that you had never seen before, you became aware that there were more strangers here than not. It was more crowded than you expected. Miranda Eckert, the quiet girl, was hosting the most populated birthday party you had been to in a long time. You're excited for step 4? Well, we all are, but I haven't even finished step 3, so... let's try to get there first. Alright. You looked at the new faces and thought you saw something of Miranda in them. Cousins, nieces, or nephews, maybe. Parties could be a big deal in her family. The both of you reached the table. You set your gifts down in an empty space, brushing some confetti aside, and Cove placed his gently next to it. He looked at the present thoughtfully.
Hey.
Hey, what did you get her? Before you had a chance to answer, Cove opened his mouth again and tapped his gift. I found this sparkly backpack. Wait, did I read that in the wrong voice?
Hey.
No, okay. I figured she could use it for a school trip or something. Your moms had taken you out shopping the other day. You'd searched through the store and ultimately... You picked out a stuffed animal, rounded necklace, lighthearted adventure book, chose a yarn. Your moms didn't appreciate what you had picked and you chose something else. Sure, you could have been joking with your suggestion, but that didn't matter. Instead, you got a short lecture and Ma grabbed a cute-looking stuffed animal. Even though you wish that your parents had let you dare to get something Miranda would really remember, the plush otter wasn't bad. Can Cove just ferociously tear our shirt off already? Ugh, sis, I wish. You described it to Cove briefly, and he had no objections.
Not bad.
Not a bad idea. He brushed his hands against the sides of his pants. I really hope Miranda likes her gifts, but I think we both did good. With that, he gave you a sunny grin. You touched the gift one more time and then stepped away. Without the direction of needing to put stuff away, the two of you weren't sure what to do next. He felt a little awkward, and Cove shrunk in on himself as he looked around. Don't worry, I'll make you grow again, Cove. Come on, let's go to the bathroom. There were more guests heading into the present table, so you turned away and wandered over to a nearby tree where you wouldn't be in the way. From there, you both inspected the area and planned the next step. You were glad that Cove had been invited too. At least you had his company in this unfamiliar place. You watched him and he gave you a nervous grin. It reassured you a little and you smiled back. Alright, what's next? Cove did not appreciate being put on the spot. He was just as unsure as you were. Cove, you're never gonna be my dom, are you? I'm gonna have to be the dominant power bottom, aren't I? Birthday party stuff? It didn't seem to be time for cake, with people still arriving. Nothing else seemed to be organizing yet either. He noticed that himself and tried again. We could find Miranda. That was an idea. It made sense to greet the birthday girl. Okay, we could say hello. Wish her happy birthday. Ask her what she wants people to do.
Sounds good.
With that point, it was decided. The Miranda hunt had begun. You wandered around. Anytime you saw someone with Miranda's hair color, you got a little closer. But more than once, it turned out to not actually be her. Hey, look. Finally, he pointed over to the real Miranda. She smiled slightly when you both approached, but ducked her head. She seemed a little overwhelmed with being the center of attention today. Yo, Miranda, you're actually 13. What's up? Actually, she's kind of tall for a 13-year-old. She looks more like, maybe she's 13, I don't know. Hi, Cove. Hi, Joseph. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thanks. I'm really glad you could come.
Dude, no problem. Sick braid. You all stood awkwardly. Miranda did just seem genuinely happy, but there was still a distance between you. This is a great-looking party. Thank you. Is there something we need to do, or should we just hang out?
Oh, well,
You would love
you can talk to people if you want. There are games that are gonna start soon.
Why are her voice lines all being read out? But you wanted to do loot stuff as 13, but there were no takers and still none now. Ooh, sis. And the bounce house should open later if you feel like jumping. Then after that, it's cake and present time. We'll have ice cream too. After that is when people will start to go home. I hope that's okay with you guys. Cove nodded. He seemed a little more confident about the situation now. That's a plan, thanks. You gave Miranda a thumbs up and she smiled in return. She seemed slightly less uncomfortable. Miranda waited there and you became hyper aware of the silence forming. You heard a shout for a Randy, and Miranda brightened up a total 180 with how stiff she had been with you.
I gotta talk to some more people. Bye!
Damn. The birthday girl ran off to her friend, leaving you and Co with at least a little more idea of what to expect. You both glanced at each other wordlessly. Cove looks like he could genuinely be in the college that Zach and Brayden live in. Oh my god, put Brayden next to Cove, and it looks like there's an age gap in that Brayden is too young. You felt a little disappointed. It was going to be hard to get to know Miranda better with how in demand she was probably going to be today. Hopefully you would get to talk with her later. All that was left now was finding something to fill the time with until the activities began. Yeah, that girl was 13. Let's find people to chat with, Cove. Come on. Let's go chat with other couples. Cove kept at your side as you socialized. It was a lot of introductions and small talk, but you weren't surprised. You ran into some classmates and ended up talking about a rumor that there would be a new art teacher in the fall. Cove didn't buy the wildest of rumors about her, that she was an international art thief who was hiding out from the law. You wondered how a story like that even got started. One of your classmates laughed and said she heard it from someone who'd been in summer school and happened to see a truck with some paintings wrapped in the back. She didn't understand the stretch either. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the crowd. The constant buzz of the conversation dropped as one of the adults, maybe Miranda's dad, asked the kids to gather around because it was game time.
Huh.
You want a fanfiction crossover between Cove, James, Brayden, and Zach? Wait, who is James? I wonder what's gonna happen. You made a joke about something that wasn't going to happen, okay. We're gonna play high-stakes poker, it's obvious. Obvious, huh? Look at this crowd. Most of the guests are teenagers around your age, but there were also quite a few adults and some younger kids. Cove nodded sagely at a group of little kids. Yeah, these are high rollers. The adult announced that the children under 10 had the first turn on the bounce house. For everyone else, it was time to play Pin the Tail on the Donkey. Yeah, boy. We love Pin the Tail on the Donkey in this birthday party. Cove raised his eyebrows. He was surprised for sure. You thought it was kind of silly. It was such a kid's game. The fact that this was planned for a party full of teens was a little crazy. You reluctantly joined the line since that was what you were supposed to do, and you didn't feel like arguing. The donkey in question was a cartoony poster with big eyes that looked more like ping pong balls. It was positioned a few feet above the ground on a tree trunk. The teens who arrived first was blindfolded and then spun around. He was nudged to the side and away from the other kids so he wouldn't stick someone with a nail instead. Unfortunately for him, he placed a tail on the donkey's head, like some kind of bizarre earring. He wouldn't be winning that far from the target. His next opponent did far better by landing it on the donkey's back. The spectators clapped politely and the line moved up. More teens tried their hand at it. Some got closer than others, but no one had gotten it perfect yet. Soon it was Cove's turn. He was blindfolded and spun just like the others. At this point it was a close match and everyone was watching with bated breath. Cove approached the donkey and stuck the tail on without any hesitation. James is my MC? Oh sis, my MC is Joseph, excuse you. Cove stood back and removed his blindfold, cheering when he saw how close he was. He turned his head over his shoulder and grinned at you. Your turn. You shook your head and stepped out of the line. Why? You took your turn. With the blindfold on, the bright park became utterly dark. As you were spun around, the sounds around you seemed to get louder. At least you could tell the direction of the bounce house from the shrieks of the younger children. You stopped spinning and stepped forward, tail in hand. It was time to give it a stab. You placed it directly in front of you, you reached and placed it up. Whatever. You pressed the tail into the target and stepped back. You took your blindfold off to check your results. First time tuning into a live stream? Spicy birthday party scene? Well, we're trying to make it spicy, but Cove is a bit of a prude. There's a few O's from the crowd and some irregular clapping. As soon as you could see clearly again, you'd realize you'd missed the mark by a lot. You caught a glimpse of Cove as you handed back the blindfold. He was pleased, no doubt feeling good that his tail was closer. A few more kids took their turns. One girl managed to somehow pin the tail on the opposite side of the tree. You were pretty sure it had to be on purpose. With the line empty, the game was finally over. The adult running thing started to inspect the donkey. At this point, the sign was more tails than donkey. In the end, someone you didn't know was announced as the winner. You and Ko both exchanged a look as you clapped politely. Huh. He sighed and looked back at the board. I was so close, too. You were also disappointed. It was a good game. You shrugged it off. You teased him. You teased him. Someone's really down, especially over what's just a kid's game. Seriously, Joseph? You grinned cheekily, and Cove eventually rolled his eyes and smiled too. He watched the winner and considered whether to say anything to them. He hesitated, however, and ended up not approaching the teen. An older teen walked up, tall enough to tower over you and Cove. You felt a little intimidated by this stern-faced teenager until she started to speak. Her voice was low but friendlier than her tough frown would suggest. Hi, I'm handing out party favors. Do you want one? She showed you party hats. She insisted they were the key to a true partying mood. She had two options, either a colorful headband with two tiny party hats arranged almost like ears, or a tiara with a star on it. They were both very festive.
It's okay.
No thanks. Cove, you put on that tiara right now. You knew the teen hadn't actually glared at him. Her default expression just seemed grim. I'll take a headband. Give me the green one. It'll match Cove's hair. The teenager handed you the hat with a surprising amount of gusto, given her expression never changed. She gave you a serious thumbs up for taking it. You encouraged Cove to pick one. Put on your damn tiara. You held a pink headband hat in one hand and a crown in the other. You tried to imagine what they'd look like on Cove. You should try it, it'd be great. Cove looked back at the hats and then at you. With a sigh, he grabbed hold of one. The teen with the hats clapped as much as she could with all the hats in her hands. The unknown teenager nodded approvingly at you both and went to pass out more hats to more people. You put the party hat on your head with a smile, and it fit well. It was surprisingly comfortable. It really completes your look. When did you get so fashionable? He smirked, and you just adjusted your new accessory. It does look good on me, thanks. You looked at him straight in the eyes, and he seemed unsure of how to handle that reaction to his statement. He floundered for a second until he came up with a response. You don't have to brag. You struck a pose, and he rolled his eyes. Cove finally put on his own hat on. He was nervous about it, his face uncertain. Thank you for wearing the tiara, Cove.
That's,
You're a beautiful princess to me. I don't know about this. I feel kind of silly. Does it look weird? You look great, Cove. Oh, thanks. He readjusted his hat bashfully. After that, the people in charge quickly set up the next game. Teenagers milled about until they were told to find partners. You tried to listen to the rules, straining your ears to listen to the adult announcing what you were supposed to do. It was a simple game. One person in a pair would throw candy while the other had to catch it in their mouth. If they caught it, the pair would move on to the next round where everyone would take a step back and the former catcher would become the thrower. The game would continue, the players getting further and further until one set of partners were the only ones left standing, or everyone lost in a round. About half of the guests had already found partners. They moved fast. You noticed Cove had his eyes on you. Could we be partners? Neither of you were all that familiar with anyone else here. It'd be the safe choice to pair up. You agreed to be Cove partner. Let's do it, partner.
Cool.
He beamed and you started wondering about your respective candy-catching capabilities. Two rows of players facing each other formed. Cove tilted his head towards them and you started to head over. You both lined up directly in front of each other. It took a while to pass out the candy. You were handed a small bag of gummies that smelled strongly fruity. You noticed Cove took it upon himself to do a taste test of a red one across from you. They're not bad. You tried one yourself. You ended up grabbing a purple gummy. It was sweet, and you guessed it was supposed to be grape flavored, but it was really just mostly sugary. And then it was time to begin. Ko's row was set to throw first. He smiled nervously, his eyes wide with seriousness. You grinned widely, and he seemed to relax a little. The game was on. The adult in charge shouted for the throwers to go. You and Ko were only a couple feet away from each other. With Ko's careful toss, you caught the candy easily. Like you, most of the other players moved on to the next round. There were a few gaps in the rows, and everyone took a step back. The round was harder with pairs further apart, but not overly so. It could be done if both partners tried. Well, I tried my best. You carefully plucked a gummy from the bag and felt the weight. You shifted it in your hand a couple times for practice, and then told Cove you were ready. You went for an underhanded throw, careful to aim for Cove's mouth. The blue candy arced and landed perfectly in Cove's mouth. He chewed it twice and smiled widely. You could tell Cove was genuinely pleased to make it through another round. You were happy as well. The next round began and you took another step back. Cove was even further away now, but he made an okay sign. He was in it to win it. Around you, the once packed rows of players had thinned out some. You wondered how many rounds everyone had left in them. Cove swung his arm and made eye contact with you. You nodded and the green candy flew towards you. Yeah, try your best. You followed the arc of the candy and opened your mouth wide. It had a slight spin on it, and you tilted your head to the left to compensate. You bit down on the candy, grinning with your victorious catch. It tasted sweet and vaguely like a Slurpee. Yeah, Joseph. Cove was thrilled. He was entirely invested in the game at this point. Do you think you'll be this good at shooting your cum into my mouth at this sort of a distance later on, when we fool around? You and Cove were still playing the game. You knew this was the final round. Only a few other pairs were still left. Cove was determined to win. You could see it in the clinch of his jaw, the careful way he watched you. You were charmed by his attitude. You liked having a partner that was so into the game. His determination sparked something in you. Admiration? An answering desire to win? You weren't sure. It was probably just that your underpants were getting wet. Cove gave you a firm grin and you prepared to throw. Your fingers grabbed an orange gummy from the bag. It felt solid in your grasp, even if your hand was starting to get sticky from touching all those sugary sweets. Cove leaned his face towards you and bent his knees, ready to catch. The time came. You looked at the candy and then Cove. You tried your best. Why would we throw? What if we messed it up purposefully? My god. Tried your best. You heard him make a small squeak and Cove blinked as the orange candy bounced off his face. You laughed. Cove's expression was just too priceless. But both of you were out of the game, so you walked over to the crowd of other people who lost. The game was wrapped up and you clapped for the winning pair. Two tiny girls around your age. They were handed more candy as a prize and everyone was dispersed from there. With the candy toss over, you're going to need something else to do. You didn't have to wait long. You heard someone in the crowd shout that the bounce house was officially open for the older kids. You and Cove shared a look. Cove smiled and you knew he wanted in. You both ran over to the bouncy castle and kicked your shoes off. You crawled into the inflated castle with Cove hot on your heels. There were a couple of other teens already inside. You started to get a feel for bouncing. Cove hopped from the middle to the side and back. Just after you landed from a particularly high jump, someone else snuck in. It was the birthday girl herself. Hi, Miranda. Hi, birthday girl. Miranda looked happy. She waved both her hands at you with a megawatt grin. I hope you're having fun. She hopped. She hopped around with her hands in front of her like a kangaroo. It was a surprisingly effective way to clear the distance in the bounce house. She then jumped high, kicking both her legs out to the side and touched the tip of her toes with her fingers. Wow. Miranda hadn't run out of tricks yet. She jumped a couple more times, gaining height before doing a backflip and tucking into a ball. She managed to land on her feet, but didn't stick the landing. She tumbled back and fell on her butt. Cove clapped and Miranda inclined her head, almost like a bow. She was back to jumping in no time. You're so good at this. She bounced close enough to the two of you to talk without shouting across the way. Cove's bouncing slowed down to accommodate their conversation.
My family gets these every year, and we have a trampoline in the backyard.
You're so lucky, Miranda. Miranda giggled a bit and then her eyes sparkled. Hey, I can launch someone if you want. If I jump in front of you, then your bounce will go higher. Okay, launch me. Sure. Miranda leaped over to you, her excitement clear on her face. Cove watched with interest. She explained more clearly how this was supposed to work. You got ready to bounce on her cue. 3, 2, 1. You want sensations already? Girl, we all want sensations. The moment she came down, you jumped high. The force of her, just as she had said, helped you launch you up. The air rushed past your face and you were coming back down. Your feet hit the bounce house hard enough to help launch Miranda up a little as well. She giggled some more and the two of you took turns bouncing each other up. Cove clapped or offered suggestions, but it was becoming clear that he wanted to turn too. Miranda invited him to join and tried to synchronize your bounces to launch Cove up super high. The first time resulted in everyone crashing down into a pile of laughs. For the fifth attempt, Cove managed to catch some serious airtime. Woo. You had all had fun bouncing around. You twirled, Miranda did stunts. Cove futilely tried to touch the highest tip in the castle's ceiling. You and Cove chatted to Miranda more than you ever had at school. She was truly the queen of this bouncy castle. Whenever someone did something cool, everyone would cheer. If you fell, the others would help you up. Eventually, more people wanted to take turns in the bounce house, so you and Cove left. As you slipped on your shoes, you saw Miranda get drawn into the conversation with a group of adults. She would be talking to them for a while. Yeah. You and Cove decided to take a break and hydrate. You went to the party table and grabbed some ice water. Cove handed you a party noisemaker he'd picked up from the same table. He blew on his and made a funny sound when it unrolled. Cove downed his drink in a couple of gulps. He had gotten pretty into bouncing after all. You were still sipping on your water again. When Cove blew on his noisemaker, and then again and again. It was almost a tune. You don't recognize any in particular melody, but a noisemaker also isn't an instrument. The noise cut through the hum of the other party guests, loud and noticeable. You started blowing on your own noisemaker. You put your noisemaker up to your lips and started making your own noise. Cove turned to face you and blew the paper of his noisemaker at you. It was a hair's breadth away from touching you.
Oh great, you people again.
What do you mean, you people? So what, we're from the hood? So what, we're black? You think you can call us out, you people? Someone vaguely familiar. What happened to your noisemaker? Did you eat it? Did you accidentally inhale it? Someone vaguely familiar shouted and you snapped your head to the side. Cove's noisemaker dropped from his mouth. The speaker stepped up and there was no doubt. It was Jeremy. Oh no, not Jeremy! That mean boy you met at the start of summer. Oh hey, it's the bowl cut kid. Jeremy's scowl told you everything about what he thought of that moniker. Oh my god. You 12-year-old, I don't have time for you. You're not sexy. Why are you here? Cove's tone was defensive. You watched Jeremy's face turn slack as if Cove's question was the idiocy above all idiocies. Didn't I already explain this? He hadn't, so both you and Cove exchanged a look. Do you have memory loss or are you really that stupid? Seriously.
I didn't walk here.
My parents brought me. Apparently I couldn't stay inside like I wanted. No, they insisted that I get out and enjoy the day and have fun on vacation, blah blah blah. He said enjoy the day and have fun on vacation like some people would say scrub the entire bathroom or listen to an off-key singer for 10 hours. They found a park because I hate the beach. Too bad I also hate parks. Ugh, it's dirty here. They don't know anything. Oh, and then they saw this stupid party and decided to bother some adults by asking what was going on. They think maybe we could be included. It's moronic. Get it now? That's how my parents are. Annoying and embarrassing. Why would anyone want strangers at their birthday party? Why can't they ever just leave things alone? He huffed loudly. His eyes shot daggers at some grown-ups that presumably were his parents. And all you can do is complain about it. It sucks to be you. Should we be friendly? I don't think so. Shut up. Jeremy's eyes slipped away from you to take in the rest of the park for a bit. It was a little awkward. It was possible he didn't know what to do, but then he spoke again.
So dumb.
How can people really go around in those embarrassing party hats? Do they think it's fun or something? How could a human being be so dumb? Actually, Cove is extremely sexy, and right now, you don't even know it. But my underwear is extremely wet right now because of him, so just think about that, Jeremy. It's just kind of nice to do party stuff. Jeremy scoffed, unimpressed. The expression on his face was nasty as he spoke. I'm not surprised an empty-headed person like you would think that. Jeremy looked you over, completely dismissive. It's so rude, you can't help but be offended. Cove's face hardened. He seemed more offended than when anyone actually insulted him personally.
Hey!
Just because you don't know how to be happy doesn't mean no one else does. And it's not our fault if you hate everything. It's not okay for you to take it out on Joseph. Oh my god, Cove, defend me more. Oh, my bussy is quaking. They aren't doing anything wrong, you are. Jeremy seemed unfazed by Cove's defense and sniffed. Joseph can humiliate themselves on their own. They don't need you to step in and do it for them. You poured your drink on Jeremy. Oh my god, should we be that bee? You punched Jeremy in the face? Ah! You drowned out his words with your noisemaker? You teared up? Oh my gosh, should we tear up? Should we try to get sympathy points from Cove? Or should we pour a drink on Jeremy? Let's pour a drink on him. You made sure to thoroughly soak him before you had time to react. He yelped back and snapped at you.
Are you crazy?
Were you drinking from that? Ugh, are you crazy? Gross. You're a dick, and not like Cove's dick. That's gigantic. I mean, I imagine it's gigantic. God, I bet it's so hard right now. Ugh. What were we talking about? Yeah, you're a dick. People were starting to watch what was going down. Your argument wasn't exactly quiet at this point. Why don't you just leave us alone if you're so awful? Jeremy glared even more and huffed.
Dumbasses.
Talking to you is pointless, dumbasses. He stalked off like the last time you saw him, muttering under his breath. Cove sighed in relief after Jeremy was gone. He relaxed, but only for a moment. He noticed how much attention you'd drawn from the other guests. Luckily, it hadn't gone on for long enough to get a real crowd. A concerned adult in a blue button-up shirt approached you and asked you who that was and if everything was alright.
It's okay.
Cove looked at you cautiously, asking just as much as the adult if you were okay. It's cool. Not that I would call fun, but I'll live. The concerned adult lingered for a few seconds but nodded and left you alone. The Jeremy fiasco is officially over. Now Cove's gonna think we're a jerk? Dude, no, Cove's on our side. Cove rubbed his eyes, clearly ready to put all that nonsense behind him. Then he started laughing. It was a surprise laugh, breaking out of his chest without any actual joy. It was nervous and disbelieving and all the complex emotions brought about by one meeting with Jeremy. I can't believe it. He spoke in fits and starts. You poured your drink on him, the look on his face. See, Cove likes it. You swore at him. Well, I just called him a D. That's not really swearing. Do you think it was too much? Cove nodded to himself, then continued speaking.
I mean...
I wouldn't want someone to do it to me, but it's not like I can blame you. He was treating us so bad for no reason. I'm pretty sure he'll be okay. I bet it won't even change anything for him. Cove paused and shyly twisted his fingers together. Then in a quieter voice he spoke. And if you're bad for doing it, I'm bad too, because I liked watching you do it, Joseph. Do you want to watch me do some other things in my room later? You don't even have to do anything, just you gonna want to watch my bussy pulsate? He became bashful, barely able to meet your eyes, and he smiled shyly. Cove is a bottom. Yeah, he probably is. But only because he deserved it. I wouldn't want that to happen to someone out of nowhere or anything. You laughed happily, you agreed it was satisfying. You felt flattered. Do you want to tell your moms about Jeremy? I mean, they're gonna complain to me. Are you gonna say what you did back at him? They'd probably be nice about it, and maybe they'd know how to handle someone like him. Cove bit his lip and thought. I'm not gonna tell them anything if you don't. Thanks for asking. He's such a goody two-shoes. He wants to bring it up. Fine, because he wants to, I'll do it. I'll let them know everything.
Alright.
Okay. You thought back to your retaliation and winced internally. You're probably going to get in trouble. Not bad trouble. Not as long as your moms knew you had been picked on first, but some trouble. Pulsating pussy? Yeah, I know. Ugh, God, I mean, Cove makes it pulsate. You apologize to Cove for making him wear the party hat. No, what? Why would we apologize? Finally, you bent over to pick up the noisemaker that Cove dropped when Jeremy appeared. It might be too dirty to use now, but you didn't want to leave it there. He accepted it softly when you offered the little favor back to him. Thanks, Joseph. I like how we can be there for each other. It makes me feel better about that kind of stuff when it happens. Yeah. Ko suggested that you should find a seat on one of the tables. It was almost cake time, and he wanted to be prepared. It was a good reminder that the party wasn't over yet. Cake? I think that table works. It's so close to the refreshments, at least. You and Ko tried to settle down after the last event. You took seats across from one another at one of the park tables. There were a few attempts to chat, but for the most part, you simply watched the adults run around to set up the cake cutting. There was a minor panic when who you assumed was Miranda's dad apparently forgot the lighter for the candles. He and another man went through and started asking the other adults for matches or lighters. They weren't having any luck until the grim-faced teenager who had been passing out the party hats pulled out a green lighter out of the ice cream cooler. Why the lighter was put in the cooler remained a mystery, but with party hat girls find, it was time to get things going again. Miranda sat at the head of the longest table. A large chocolate cake was set in front of her. She lit all 14 candles with the cooler lighter with a big smile. The adults started singing happy birthday, and the rest of the guests joined in. At the end of the song, Miranda blew out the candles with a dedicated huff. She closed her eyes, and you saw her silently mouth something. Maybe it was a birthday wish. Miranda cut her own slice. Then one of the grown-ups took over cutting the cake. Another adult passed around the plates of cake slices with a scoop of vanilla ice cream to the guests. Eventually the cake got around to you and Cove. Cove was pleased with the treat in general. The cake looked rich and moist. It smelled quite chocolatey. Yuck. Just give me the ice cream. I don't eat chocolate cake. What should be chocolate ice cream when I'm about to lose my mind? You took your plastic spoon and tried a bite of the ice cream. It was a little plain, like most bulk vanilla ice cream, but it was still ice cream. You liked it and took another bite. The cake, however, you shoved off to the very side of your plate. Hey, I'll take what you don't want. Let me feed it to you. I want to feed it to him. Kova eyed you hopefully, and you could hear his legs swinging against the tablecloth hanging over the side of the table. You slid your plate over. Eat up, big guy. Cove transferred what you didn't want to his plate and then handed yours back. Thanks. He beamed and you felt a little better that your unwanted dessert would still be enjoyed. Cove then took his fork and started mashing up some of his cake. Why? What? Are you a messy eater? When the cake resembled a pile of crummy chunks, he started mixing into the ice cream. Ew! The melted parts of the ice cream made a kind of chocolate cake soup. I'm sorry for giving you my cake. Can I have it back now? You're gross. You're a gross eater. I gotta keep it 100. There was nothing appealing about it. It was melty and crumbly and looked more like dirt shoved into old milk than a dessert. Ko chuckled at your disgusted expression. Vanilla ice cream's not good by itself, and I'm gonna eat it with the cake either way, so why not put them together now? Vanilla ice cream is delicious, bruh. Things like ice cream cake exist. Putting stuff together is normal. Cove contentedly chowed down on his concoction. One advantage to his mix is that the ice cream seemed to catch most of the crumbs that would usually fall from eating a cake. Unlike some of the kids around him, Cove's shirt remained clean. You started eating your dessert in earnest. You enjoyed yourself plenty. Suddenly, Cove suddenly put his fork down on his plate and stared up into the sky, with a faraway expression. You checked but didn't see anything attention-grabbing. This ice cream is better than the ones in the cups, you know, with the little wooden spoons, but I still kinda want that instead. Wasn't that when we were 8? You remembered what kind he was talking about. Oh yeah, like the ones handed out at the barbecue before the fireworks happened.
Right.
Ko smiled nostalgically at the thought. You could picture a younger Ko for a moment with the same look in his eyes. You remembered how your ma tried to share with everyone that night. You held up your fork and offered up a bite of your dessert to him. The dessert was held unsteadily on your plastic fork, and you had to be careful as you moved it towards him. Cove raised his eyebrows at your offer.
What?
Dude, just open your mouth and put it in. You're serious. Really, Cove? Let's share. He rubbed his neck, leaning back in his seat. He was taken aback and even more bashful. Well, I already have some on my plate, so yeah, sorry. It's fine. You don't want to get my cooties, huh? Joseph. He spoke with a terser tone. You were testing him. Cove gulped as he looked at you and then your respective dessert plates. He took a quick breath and grabbed your fork without letting himself hesitate. He took a bite. You smiled. Thanks, Cove. Miranda then started to open her gifts. She systematically attacked the mountain of presents like a pro. She checked for any cards and read them loudly before opening a gift. She smiled at every present, including the ones you and Cove got her. You were glad the presents were accepted. It took time, but eventually Miranda got through all the gifts. She was very sweet and polite throughout it all. The party went on till the sun began to set. By that point, most of everything had settled down and people had begun to leave. Any of the guests whose parents had stayed for the party were already gone, except for Miranda's family. Only a few kids still waiting for their parents to come get them remained, you and Cove included. Miranda's family were cleaning up, and as a guest, neither you nor Cove were supposed to help with that. Instead, you both had decided to take it easy in the bouncy castle. It was somewhere out of the way where you could casually wait for your ride. Miranda had also elected to hang out with you. You weren't even bouncing anymore. Cove laid on his side with his back to a wall, and Miranda sat across from him with her legs stretched out. You also made yourself comfortable. It was nice and warm in the little building. It also felt like you had some privacy, which was nice. You could all speak openly here. Thanks for coming. She looked down but continued shyly. It's been really cool to get to hang out with you a little bit. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't think I'd be invited. Thanks for me too, Miranda. Miranda just smiled a little more. Did you notice anything happen earlier? With some people you didn't know showing up? She had to think about his question a little. It was apparent that she didn't have an encounter with Jeremy since there was no instant recognition. I heard about something. Some other parents were talking to my parents when their kid came and forced them to leave the park. She tilted her head to the side, finding it weird but also not important. Then everyone had cake and ice cream. Ko smiled uncomfortably. That's good. He was clearly worried that Jeremy's confrontation could have gotten to her. Luckily, it didn't seem that anyone had overheard or passed along Jeremy's cruel words. Cove rolled over on his back and sighed contentedly. Miranda seemed confused but wasn't going to push. Well, I don't think we're supposed to tell her, considering that. You got up and started bouncing again. You were gonna say kiss in the bouncy house, but Miranda's there? I know, cock block. You clambered to your feet and popped in place. Miranda lit up and followed your lead. You both started leaping around and trying tricks. Cove sighed and attempted to stay down, but you could see the moving floor was jostling him. He wasn't gonna get any rest down there. Cove, we could launch you. We're almost bouncing you from over here. I want to see what would happen if we actually tried to on purpose. Cove agreed and rolled to the center of the bounce house. You and Miranda took your places on either side of him and started bouncing. It was hard to synchronize your jumps exactly. Once you got your timing down, you were able to launch Cove a few feet in the air while he remained in a cross-legged position. All three of you giggled. Eventually, Cove decided to get up for real and join the act of jumping. You played around together until it was time to go home. At the end of the day, you thought it had been quite the party. Yay! That was a beautiful day with Cove. Only problem is, he still hasn't loaded up my bussy. How about soiree? We just had a party, but let's have another sort of party. You're fantasizing about how you wish you had the perfect relationship. Same. You'd whiled away in the morning, doing whatever struck your fancy, and now you are recharging with lunch. With nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking of all the possibilities for your afternoon that your moms approached you.
Hi.
Hi, Joseph. You okay? Mouth full, you nodded in reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything.
Alright.
Great, we wanted to have a little chat with you.
The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. Is this because... Did Cove tell you to talk to me because he's uncomfortable with all the sexual comments I'm making? Well, just so you know, he likes it. Your chewing slowed as your eyes widened, looking from one parent to the other. Anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. Intrigued at the irritated at the interruption, you groaned. Nothing good came of any conversation that had to be announced ahead of time. You weren't sure you even wanted to know.
There.
Don't be like that. It's going to be a good chat.
There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your ma and I are going.
The Cypress was the country club your moms were part of, where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, all with fancy names like soiree. Sighing, you drummed your fingers and waited for the grand reveal. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Leaning in, Ma took your hand and squeezed it. We've decided to make the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay home fully alone for the first time.
Sorry.
You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around, not yours. Sorry, you've got to wait a couple more years.
I'm way more mature than Elizabeth. I just want to throw that out there. I just want to throw that out there that she's like a little baby, but whatever. Fine. Your mom's beamed at you.
I'm glad you understand, and don't worry, we're not leaving you out. We want you to have a special night too.
Intrigued, you grinned at your moms and listened. Your parents shaded a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them you were waiting. They couldn't keep dropping such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well?
Since it's a pretty fancy party.
That's still chaperones.
And attendees are allowed to bring a guest. We thought it might be a nice opportunity to invite someone such as your... Whoa, I can't read that sentence. I failed so many times. And attendees are allowed to bring a guest. We thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to invite someone yourself. As a date, if you want. Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your mom took advantage of your uncharacteristic silence to continue filling you in on the events. Even though we'll be at the party, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy music as you see fit.
But no leaving the property.
Ma nodded at Mom's introduction.
Isn't that great?
Interjection. Yes, as long as you don't leave the party. And if you'd rather just bring a friend, that's a-okay too. Oh, okay, so it's cool that I'm sexually harassing Cole at every given opportunity. I guess they have nothing to say about that. Cool, I'm gonna bring Cove. You must have lit it up because your parents shared an amused look again.
Don't worry about it.
The soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before you're heading out.
And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now. Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing to another part of the house. You barely noticed their departure. All you could think of was what just happened. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. Well, I mean, yeah, let's finish eating. The conversation had taken your mind off the meal, but you opted to try to eat a little more. You picked at the plate for a little while longer. Even though you'd relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that having someone come as a friend would be the best. You wanted it to be a date. The prospect of having your first date made it impossible to sit still. You couldn't help but jiggle your foot as you laid on your bed, contemplating the possibility. That night being a date would mean actually asking someone out. The little you knew of that came from what you'd seen on TV and movies, and what you heard about from kids at school. And you had the perfect idea of who to ask on the date. Derek! He's so young and cute. You guys would be perfect for each other. Your moms hadn't even entertained the idea of dating until now. You went over possible words and phrases in your head, setting up scenarios and smooth segues before tearing them down and trying something else. You realized that you had been mentally scripting Cove as the one you were asking. It had been his name repeating inside your mind, his face lighting up as you invited him to join you. You buried your face in your pillow. You laughed awkwardly, smiling. You closed your eyes at the daydream crystallizing in your head. You let your train of thought continue a little longer. You clearly pictured his eyes, the way he rubbed his arm when he was nervous, and tried your best to guess what he might do next. It was nice. You liked him. You knew it had taken time for you to feel this way, but you just liked him a lot. You wouldn't be able to stop thinking of him even if you wanted to, and you didn't. Sighing, you shifted positions on the bed, resting your arms on the windowsill. A flock of birds caught your eye and led your gaze as they crossed the sky. You watched the birds grow smaller and less distinct until they disappeared from sight. Like the snap of a hypnotist's fingers, you were released from a trance and left with a goal of your own. You were going to take a walk. You ambled through the familiar streets of your neighborhood, picking your path at whim. It was as quiet as ever, with tourists choosing to congregate in the shopping area near the beach rather than venture into the sleepy residential zones. You continued down the road and soon found yourself at the shore. The fresh, salty air hit you first, rolling to meet you over the grassy dunes that tickled your legs, followed by the familiar view of the sea stretching out across the horizon. You came to a halt. A lone figure was standing in the ocean, the water reaching up to his knees, my love. Though he had his back to you, you recognized his familiar silhouette as Cove's. It made sense that you'd find him here. He was always in his element by the sea. You had no idea if he heard your arrival or for his coincidence, but he looked over his shoulder. Your eyes met. You called out, "Cove, here!" In your excitement, you'd missed a few words. You tried to not let your internal panic show. Cove smiled at you, bathed in the soft light of the afternoon sun. With his hair gently tousled by the sea breeze, he looked especially charming. He then fully turned around and began to wade through the water over to the shore. You wanted him to get to you already? You could hardly wait to talk about this. 13, too young for unsupervised dating? Excuse you. 13 is plenty old enough. Heart aflutter, you wondered what you were going to say to him when he reached you. The question of whether to invite him, and if so, in what fashion, was in front of you. Between leaping into a world unknown or enjoying the safety of the familiar.
Joseph.
Ugh, my god. Hello, what's up? You have a long belly button. Oh. Hey, Joseph, are you free right now? Not exactly. My moms are taking me to a soiree tomorrow, at the country club. It was kind of a strange segue, but you wanted to get right to the point. A soiree, huh? Sounds exciting. He was smiling politely, but you could tell that your outing mention hadn't sparked much interest. That didn't come as much of a surprise to you. Formal affairs and big gatherings were some of his least favorite things, but you were sure he'd attend if you were the one who invited him. You only had to do it. Cove tilted his head curiously at you. You resolved to make it a date. Girl, obviously. Cove continued to watch you expectantly. It was kind of thrilling to keep him in suspense. Joseph? Cove, I want you to be my date for the party. Do you want to go on a date with me? My parents said it would be alright if I brought a date and... Practice date? Oh my god. How could you ever say that? Practice date. Okay, Cove, I want you to be my date for the party. You spoke your thoughts clearly. Caught off guard, he lifted his hands in front of his chest out of surprise. Then he packed them down in a cross over his chest. He twisted his face to the side, no longer able to meet your eyes. He couldn't hide the flush on his cheeks.
Oh my god.
Are you serious? Yes, and it would be great if you gave me an answer. His lips were pressed tightly together, preventing any more words from slipping out. You could tell that he was nervous. That was always easy to pick up on from him. And another moment, he inclined his head, dipping it in a nod, so slight that you might have missed it, had you been able to tear your eyes from him. Oh, I wanted to hug him. I'd be like, really? Yay, let's hug. Yay! Cove closed his eyes, trapped in his awkward pose. He was gripping his arms so tightly that the skin around his knuckles was fully taut. Have you stopped breathing? Cove exhaled at last, letting out a sigh that stretched into another tense silence. His stance loosened. His arms stayed crossed over his chest, but he was no longer clutching to them like a shield. You didn't want to be the one to break the quiet. Thanks, Joseph. I guess I'm gonna have to tell my dad and mom too. Right. I've got to let my moms know you're going. Can you come with me? Yeah. It was a relief that he'd thought enough to manage speech again. You hoped that by the time you got to your house, he'd be able to manage full sentences once more. Cove, give us that thirsty Joseph again? I know, right? Cove went to where he discarded his things in the sand, tugging a shirt over his head and slipping on a pair of shoes, before joining you and setting off home. The two of you stepped inside of the front door of your house. It was an action you'd taken together countless times, but your stomach had never churned quite like this on previous occasions. At the sound of the door opening, your mom poked her head into the hall.
Hello.
Ah, Cove, it's you. What a surprise. I wasn't expecting this at all. Nope.
She chuckled at her own joke. Cove was always there, and she knew how close the two of you were. Bringing anyone other than him back would have been an actual surprise. Hi, Mrs. Tsubasa. It's nice to see you.
So I take it Cove's going to be our guest for tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the lucky guy.
Hello?
And what kind of outing will it be?
Her voice is hesitant but serious. Cove ducked his head down reflexively. You knew that he'd figured out what she was driving at. You know what it is. Mom nodded in understanding. She wore a wispy smile.
Ma is gonna be thrilled about this.
Cove tilted his head back, just slightly. He peeked through the longer strands of his hair. Just her, Mrs. Tsubasa? Even if you'd not been able to see his wide, worried eyes, you'd have heard the anxiety in his voice. Your mom sighed and patted him on the arm.
Oh, Cove, you're a great kid. Most parents hope that their kids meet such a special person someday.
She glanced aside, a wry expression on her face.
Someday is the real key word there.
She turned back to you both.
But you just had to move in right across the street at 8 years old. Mom crouched down, shaking her head, and put a hand on each of Kove's shoulders.
Okay.
Kove, I hope you're planning on being a very good boy to Joseph, and I'm not just talking about tomorrow night. She nudged him playfully on the cheek with a fist. Kove, who had been blushing when all this began, was now red as an heirloom tomato. WTF, Kuro? I didn't know... Wait, I did know you had live today? You mean I'm streaming today? Yeah, you should have known. Okay, yeah. I was. Or will. Stop embarrassing. You don't have to worry. Kove's definitely gonna be good to me. There was a teasing tone to your voice. Between you and your mom, Kove was defenseless. He didn't speak further. His eyes locked down on his shuffling feet as he rubbed the scar on his arm. The redness remained intact. Okay, we put Kove through the ringer enough. The big day isn't even here yet. You laughed and nodded along. There was still plenty of time to have fun. I'll give your folks a call and get everything squared away. She headed off to get the phone, leaving the two of you alone. Kove's eyes darted to you again, and he shot you a quick, delicate smile before staring at the ground again. I'm gonna go across the street, talk to my parents. Alright, see you tomorrow. Bye, Kove. You retreated from your home's entryway without another word. And the rest of the afternoon passed by, just like that. Back in your room, your mind was alight with visions of tomorrow night. The soiree was something, but not nearly as exciting as going on your first date. You were thrilled that Kove had actually said yes, that he was your genuine date to a party. You hugged your knees to your chest, overawed by the thought the night couldn't come soon enough. The evening of the soiree had arrived, the daylight hours having slipped away in a blur. Up in your bedroom, you were getting ready for the big event. That was your intention at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than a normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. No, I like casual. Or maybe I should wonder how Kove would feel about my outfit. But I prefer casual. I don't like formal, like, ever. I hate it. You couldn't help but consider how he would respond to the way you were dressed. Would he like seeing you dressed all fancy, or would it reinforce the weirdness of the situation? Your mind drifted across the street. Was Kove going through these same steps right now? Staring at his wardrobe and trying to decide what to wear? You had no idea if he would dress up for the occasion himself, or if he'd wear his usual attire. It'd be so much easier if you knew what he was going to do. You didn't want to look stupid in front of Kove. You wanted to impress Kove. You didn't want to come across it too. You didn't want to look like you were taking you wanted him to see you in a new light. I wanted to impress him. How are we gonna impress him in something casual? Fine, formal. But I don't like putting on formal clothes. You attempted to decide between the nicer pieces in your wardrobe, the ones that rarely had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because you were dressing to impress? Yeah. Fashion was a competitive sport, just like the golf tournaments the club hosted. You might not walk out with the trophy at the end, but you still had every intention of winning. To start, you decided to wear a button-down shirt. Girl, get those dresses away from me. Crisp shirts were a classic formal look for a reason. They were essentially foolproof. You paired your top with dress pants. You picked a pair that complemented the color of your top and nodded with satisfaction. It was a slick look. You began to get dressed, your fingers working stiff zips and awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you with every movement that you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you'd gotten the opportunity to wear this. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance over before heading downstairs, ready to head out. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits. Ma strapping her heel into a stiletto shoe, and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet single-handedly. Oh my god.
Well, serving looks. They looked up at you as you entered.
Oh,
Oh, Joseph, you look so nice, don't you think, Pam?
thanks.
Thanks for dressing up, Joseph. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp. Mom was still struggling with the bracelet. You lent a hand, literally by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp. Thanks, kiddo. Mom then glanced over at the clock on the wall, seeing where the hands were pointing. A frown creased her face. Oh, I know, Lindsay, you're probably getting wet over there seeing these moms. Seeing these MILFs. When's Cove going to be here? Do you know? He's here at 7, soon probably. Yeah, at 7. Or am I picking him up? I'm picking him up.
Oh?
Oh yeah? She raised her eyebrow, a broad grin replacing the earlier frown. That's very polite of you. Go sweep him off his feet. We want to leave in 10 minutes. Okay. Cove's house was mere seconds away from yours, making the warning unnecessary, but you dutifully went out. After crossing the street, you found yourself at Cove's very familiar front door. You rang the bell, whose chime was lodged in your head from all the times you'd rung it over the years. Though, unlike usual, Cove's mom, Kyra, was the one who answered it this night.
Come on.
Hey, Joseph, come on in. She beckoned you inside as if she was so excited to see that words alone weren't enough. Thanks for coming. The boys will be right down. They're just in Cove's room. I can call them if you want. The boys? Why is Cove's dad up there? That'd be great, thanks.
Sure.
She stepped over to the opening of the hallway at the other side of the living room and hollered down. Cove, Cliff, Joseph is here. Cliff's voice came back without its... Wait, Cliff's voice came back without its owner? What does that mean? Just a minute. Thanks. Hello, Joseph. You chuckled. It was longer than a minute, but Kyra easily filled the time by chatting with you about your plans for the night ahead. Aww, cute baby, all in black. A short while later, Mr. Holden strolled into the room, giving you a wave. Aww. Cove pulled his face into a smile as he reciprocated. The tension in his face faded away. You watched him taking in your outfit, swallowing and grinning at you again. Hi, Joseph. Cove, fancy seeing you here. He opened his mouth. This is the closest I've ever been to a real date. He opened his mouth to speak more, then paused. Cove checked the time using a clock hanging on the side wall and addressed his parents. We've got to go. Even if there hadn't been time for a real discussion, you felt relieved about the positive reaction. He abruptly headed towards the door.
Come on.
Where's the fire? Isn't there something you want to do before leaving for the dance? Cove froze, wincing at the call-out, while his dad continued to smile encouragingly. Curious, you watched Cove expectantly. It was hard to imagine what he would want to do before heading out, or what you'd have time for. Your mom's warning about not taking too long echoed in the back of your mind.
Come on.
We can do that later. Right, sorry. Forget I said anything. What are they talking about? Have a blast, you two. I'll return your son in mint condition. See you. You followed Cove into the street. Cove sighed, wrapping a hand across his forehead. Seeing the look on your face, he shook his head.
It's okay.
I'm fine, it's nothing. That was good news. You didn't think Cove would get much fun out of a party if he went in already feeling bad, but it didn't explain his actions or his dad's teasing question. What was your dad on about? His expression grew pained. His brow creased and his mouth furrowed as he avoided meeting you in the eyes. You might have gotten worried if not for the flush coloring his face. He's just embarrassed. Cove drew himself up before responding. Dad's been making a big deal out of everything ever since he found out about this. He gestured vaguely between him and you. How I'm dressed up, how I should prepare, what was going to happen. He even looked up the precise definition of a soiree in 2 dictionaries in case one was wrong. I didn't realize we had to do homework for this party. He wanted to make sure I would know what to do at one, so after he figured it out, he made sure to tell me about it. He exhaled, smiling sheepishly.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry for complaining. It's not your fault. It's not really his fault either. It's okay. Thanks. I was trying to get somewhere with that. Both my dad and mom insisted that, since this is a... He paused, pushing the hair back from his burning face and forced himself to continue. It's a date, and kind of a fancy party. I need to bring something for you for inviting me. The conclusion of the story caught you by surprise. You blinked, unsure if you'd slacked too much on your own preparation for tonight. You got me a present?
That's,
Not really, just this. Cove reached behind himself to take something out of a back pocket. His hand returned to view with him holding a single small white poppy by the stem. Cove threw his gaze to the floor, shyly inching his hand closer to you. I don't like this flower, you said jokingly. Cove hung his head, exasperated with you. The blush overtook his face completely at this point. That made it difficult to feel bad for teasing him. I still like this one because it's from you. He sputtered a weak laugh, covering his mouth with the free hand. Thanks. Thank you. Then you accepted the flower from him. Cove straightened himself out in response. So we're gonna be late if we keep standing here. Right, we better hurry. You returned home, Cove in tow. Your mom's welcoming you back. You expected them to pile you back outside immediately, but the urge was momentarily stifled as they caught sight of the flower clasped in your hand. Oh no. Thankfully, other than sharing an infuriatingly knowing smile, they took it in stride and didn't say anything. Mom's smug look vanished as she caught sight of the clock. Purpose remembered. Your mom's whisked you out once more, into the car and off to your destination. You pulled up at the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its lights sleepily warming the oncoming night. Your mom's led the way to the space around the back where the event was being held. This place had been transformed through decoration, with smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to a festive atmosphere. Musicians dressed in matching black and white were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music, and as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destination reached. Your parents rounded on you and Cove. Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves.
have fun.
We'll be around if you need us.
See you later.
See you. Bye. Cove waved your moms off. Once they'd retreated a distance away, you found him watching you expectantly. What now? It wasn't a question, but a plea for help. You could tell that he definitely didn't know what to do with himself in this situation. We'll have to wait for some things to start, like the band, but there's stuff going on already. Cove perked up at that.
Really?
Oh, do you want to do any of those? Whatever they are. You introduced Cove to people in your country club? Girl, I don't know these people. They're not my friends. You took a seat to relax. You checked this. Oh my god, let's go get some snacks, Cove. Sis, you know I'd be heading to that snack table right away. We can go eat some food now, even if the music hasn't started.
Oh?
That's okay. It's not too soon. Are you calling me fat, Cove? I'm sorry, I want the snacks. I want the hors d'oeuvres. I only like these parties because of the free food. Yep, I wonder what they'll have this time. Yeah, I only like the parties with the free food. Let's go check it out. The two of you wandered over to the refreshments table. With it being early in the night, it had barely been touched and the plates were nearly as pristine as when they had left the kitchens. The offerings were all tiny and bite-sized, ready to be picked up and sampled. It was immediately apparent that there were plenty to choose from. Just from the level of care with which it was presented, it was clear that this was the fancy stuff. Cove stared at one plate, then another, confused.
Maybe?
I think I know some of this. I don't. Gross. And only some of it's any good. This is good stuff. Is it? Yeah. You picked one of the nearby morsels and presented it in front of Cove to observe. It looks like a slice of the world's smallest loaf of bread with stuff on top. It has to be small so you've got room to try lots of different things. Cove's eyes were wide as you guided him through what was on offer. It made you feel sophisticated. I already said I would do the DLCs, Makahadama. Goodness. You've asked that before and I said I would do them. Cove squared his shoulders as if gearing up for a match. I'm gonna try it. He picked up a plate and took one appetizer, then another, and another. Soon you realized he was taking one of every single type. There's no prize for eating at all. You've only got to take the things you want. I don't know what I want, so I'm figuring it out. You joined him on sampling everything. You might be stuffed afterwards, but that was a problem for your future self. Right now, you're going to enjoy the feast to the fullest. Cove nibbled his way through everything the Cypress had. The results of the endeavor were mixed. He was revolted by some of the things he tried, openly screwing up his face and rushing to find a drink to wash the taste away. Yet these bad experiences didn't stop him from plowing on, moving on to the next snack with an open mind. There were some foods he was neutral about, dismissing them with a shrug. But best of all were his reactions when he stumbled across something good. Each time caught him by surprise, his expression morphing from worried curiosity to skeptical interest before making way for astonished enjoyment. Regardless of how he felt about what he was currently eating, you could tell he was having a good time just being free to eat whatever he laid his eyes on. You thought that was nice too. After going through a round of sampling, you continued munching on the refreshments while waiting for music. Let's move on to something else. We can introduce you to some hoes in this place. I know most of these people because I've been here a lot over the years. You can meet them. Sure. They'll all want to know about the mysterious guest. It'll be cool. I'm not really mysterious, and I'll be even less mysterious if you introduce me. That just made you laugh. You beckoned with him to follow you and meet the other guests. Most of the attendees skewed significantly older or considerably younger than the two of you, with only a few people around your age. Naturally, Cove greeted them with his easy warmth. Not that there weren't any difficulties. Sorry, could you repeat your name? It's Cove. Cove? They rolled the word over their tongue, clearly surprised. How unusual, but lovely, of course. As you expected, there was an interest in who you brought to the party, and what your relationship with him was. Joseph, good to see you. This is your date? What does it look like? Of course he is. Cove winced over the declaration. That got a laugh in the group. Hopefully Cove would be able to look you in the eye sometime in the next hour or so. Still, some people focused on the important things, how you were dressed. Don't you look snappy in that outfit? You scrubbed up well. With the basic niceties taken care of, you kept on chatting while waited? I guess. In no time at all, the sun set in full. The lights faded in, and the opening notes of the band's first song rang out. You and Cove stopped what you were doing, turning to contemplate the party that had been steadily unfurling while you were distracted. It was much busier now, both in terms of people and activity. The first steps were taken onto the dance floor, some tentative, others eager. Even if the band hadn't been playing, the constant level of chatter would have ensured that it was a quiet night. That it wasn't a quiet night. With the party now in full swing, your options had increased. You went to see what your moms were up to. You watched the band perform. You asked Cove to dance. Oh my god, let's dance. I hate dancing, but like, let's do it. Cove, can I have the pleasure of your company on the dance floor? Really? He blurted the word out without thinking, then clamped a hand over his mouth before anything else could slip out. Of course, really, that's why I invited you to a dance. Cove sucked in a deep breath as if trying to inhale confidence as well as oxygen into his lungs. He gave a single serious nod before holding a trembling hand out towards you. You felt confident, you felt nervous right along with him. Taking a steady breath, you reminded yourself that there's nothing here could hurt you, physically at any rate. This train of thought was leading you down tunnels of potential embarrassment, so you tried to keep your mind on the moment. You took Kove's outstretched hand. His skin was hot and damp, but yours was probably no better. You squeezed it, giving him an empathetic smile, and together you carefully made your way onto the dance floor. You took your places, standing before each other, hands still entwined. Frowning, Kove assessed the situation, trying to puzzle it out like a math problem before putting his remaining free hand on your shoulder. You repositioned his hand to your waist. Gently, you took his hand from your shoulder and moved it down for the dance. His eyes shook at the touch. From how tense his arm was, you knew Kove was fighting an urge to pull away. It's okay. You can finger me right here on the dance floor. But ultimately, he smiled shyly at you and his grip on your other hand tightened. You gazed up at Kove, who seemed suddenly aware of the few inches he had over you. Kove awkwardly glanced down at you from the corner of his eyes, looking almost apologetic. The music had begun. You both moved eagerly, trying to catch up to it, but your feet took you in opposite directions. Fumbling, the two of you shuffled from side to side, attempting to mirror each other's movements, but always winding up at odds. It was difficult. Kove was struggling just coordinating his own limbs to the rhythm, let alone matching your movements. How dare you be late, Jermel? When Kove's foot ghosted over yours, it was decided it'd be safest for everyone if you simply swayed to the tune. You rooted yourself to the floor, your torso gently moving to the sounds. Gratefully, Kove kept his movements small and subtle in the same way. You were distinctly aware that almost all the other dancing couples were men paired with women, unlike you and Kove. Okay, well thank you for that representation, because I'm still a little bit upset that the game refers to me as they. Because I did choose the male pronouns at the character profile screen. So it was kind of a little bit upsetting that I couldn't get he. You know, I chose he, him, but there's calling me they, them. It's like, girl, that's misgendering me. Or at least that's at least ambiguously gendering me. You're ambiguously gendering me, and I don't like it. But here, it's acknowledging that we're a same-sex couple. And that's good. That's very good. Thank you. It didn't bother you. This was a welcoming environment. Your two moms wouldn't be members otherwise. Not being the majority didn't mean there was any problem with it. Your confidence spilled over onto Kove. He tried to be less timid in his demeanor. Though it didn't improve his dancing, it didn't make it worse, and you hoped that it meant he was having a better time. How do you know our mums aren't dancing? They probably are. All was fine for a little while. You weren't going to win any dancing accolades with Kove. That didn't matter when you were treasuring just being so close to him. Kove stepped out of sync with the music, knocking against you. He flinched back, nearly pulling you over in the process. You took a hand from him and held it up, halting proceedings so you could both get your bearings once more. We should have stuck to Hokey Pokey? I don't even know what Hokey Pokey is. Dancing is harder than I thought. I'm signing you up for dancing lessons. Girl, I should tell myself that. Instead of laughing, Kove looked off. I don't really want to. Then you took Kove's hand once more and gingerly resumed swaying to the music. Kove reluctantly followed suit, his steps small and apprehensive. He mumbled something quietly. You think I chose they, them? No, there's no way I did that. There's absolutely no way I did that. This is a long song. You weren't sure how to take that, whether it meant that something was wrong or if Kove didn't really like dancing, or if he didn't like dancing with you specifically. It made the last couple of minutes of the song uncomfortable as you weighed up what to do and what to say to Kove. Narrator said it was just us and male. Yeah, what? Yeah. When the musician laid their instruments down, Cove dropped your hands as if they were burning him. He trailed off the dance floor as quickly as he could without breaking into an outright run. When you caught up, he said nothing. You tried to get him into doing something else, but eliciting anything from him was now impossible. You focused over Cove, wondering how he was finding the evening. He sighed. It was so quiet and unobtrusive that you wouldn't have caught it if you hadn't been watching him. His gaze was roaming with how far his eyes seemed. Whatever he was searching for couldn't be found at this party. He turned to face you before you could say anything. I want to sit down. We can do that. Cove began to move and you instinctively followed him. Yet instead of taking a seat at one of the many free tables as you expected, Cove ignored them as he purposely strode out of the party's area. Cove, there's seats right here. Cove, come back. Your call didn't seem to register with him as he continued forward, out onto the greens of the golf course. You went after him, trying to watch out for the uneven ground underfoot. The clods of earth dislodging in games of golf were perfect for snatching unwary feet even in daylight. Up ahead, Cove didn't appear to have any difficulty traversing the uneven land. Ooh. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. 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 Hello, my cutie man. He settled down on the little hills of the golf course. You joined him, still unsure of what was going on. You alright? Why are we here? Or what's wrong? Look at us breaking the rules. What's wrong? Cove stared. Oh, look at me. Look at me with your beautiful eyes, you beautiful man. You beautiful adult man of 13 years old. Cove started as if he'd acted on instinct and your question had brought him around to reality again.
Sorry.
And it's okay. You can go back to the party. You didn't budge from your spot. From here, the party was just a glowing haze in the distance. You didn't want to leave him behind. No soldier left behind, Cove. We're not soldiers. I'm still sticking with you. Oh, thanks. Now that Cove was more at ease, you tried to find out what had caused him to take flight in the first place. Even thinking the words pained you, but you had to know the answer. Did going to the party with me make you uncomfortable? Logically, you knew that the issue was likely the activity rather than your company. Your heart strained with the worry that you had been at fault, though. If anything, he looks even older now, he does. Was it because I made you dance? His abrupt departure from that was another indicator something had gone awry.
What?
No. He shook his head emphatically. It's not anything I did tonight. It's definitely not anything you did either. Relief overcame you. You suspected as much, but with this being your very first date, it was hard to be sure. Cove attempted to fill in the gaps of understanding. I don't want to think about going back into the party. I just feel ready to go home. To your home planet? Cove didn't appear to notice your joke, leaving you to imagine Planet Cove all by yourself. You hoped it would be an aquatic world. Cove sat there quietly, gazing out into the shadowy hills and valleys of the golf course. A comfortably warm wind rustled between you, tousling his hair. It was so far away from the hub of the party, you couldn't even make out the quiet sounds of crickets chirping. I mean, you could even make out the quiet sounds of crickets chirping. This is kind of like how we first met. Do you remember? How could I forget? Your impression of Cove during those early days hadn't been fond. It's so weird. That was a long time ago now. You thought back to the day when Cove first arrived in the neighborhood. He had run away from Mr. Holden, taking solace in the hills behind your house. That had been late too, on a clear night like today. Looking at the sky, you wondered if the stars that were looking down were the same ones as then. Cove's face was brighter, though you could still see signs of the strain that had caused him to depart from the soiree. When he'd first sat down, he had curled up like a pill bug, hunched over, knees pressed into his chest and arms wrapped around them. He'd unwound as you'd been talking, straightening up, his hands free to gesticulate. It was as though the two of you had constructed your own little world away from everything else, and he was beginning to perk up. The small smile that you had crept onto his face was quickly ushered away by a frown. I can't believe I'm on a date. Ko followed up on the statement before you could react. He spoke in a distinctly whispered tone, as though you were the only one in the world who he could share these words with. After I said I wanted to come, I wanted to take it back. Not because I really didn't want to do it, because, I don't know. It seemed like a big deal. It made me feel bad somehow. I started feeling like I couldn't do it, even though I just wanted to do it. I guess it was sort of like having to give a presentation in front of the class, even though it was just me and you doing something like we always do. He charged on, his words streaming out. I still could do it because thinking about not being there and you, and what you might think if I did take it back, made me feel way worse than whatever else I felt.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Joseph. I just can't deal with stuff like this and have to make everything so complicated. You smiled at him. I don't want you to be here if you don't want to be here. I'm sorry I made you feel bad. You don't have to apologize. How about that one? You took his hand. Yeah, let's take his hand. His skin was cool to the touch. His fingers coiled delicately around yours. He finally moved his head to look you straight on, eyes meeting yours.
Joseph.
Thanks for inviting me, Joseph. You stared back at him, not comprehending. But didn't it make you feel bad?
Yeah.
It did, when I had to think about how I was actually doing it. But getting to hear that you wanted me to come made me feel good. He flushed and had to break the fragile eye contact made.
I mean...
I want to keep doing things with you, no matter what, even if I feel weird sometimes. I don't want to stop being there. I don't want you to stop wanting me there. 'Cause when I do whatever it is for real, and you're with me, it all feels better in the end. It always does. You felt a tug on your hand and found Cove in the process of standing up. You joined him on your feet. What was that? Hey, give me a warning next time. What's up? What's up? Cove smiled awkwardly, brushing some grass off the side of his pants.
Wanna dance with me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Cove, but I just came in my pants. We already did. You were there. I know, but it's a dance party, right? And I think... He trailed off, brow furrowed as if he was trying to figure out the answer himself. Nodding slowly, he continued. I think I want to dance with you again before it's over. With the only words he had to explain gone, he just held his hand up to you. His expression was soft. I want to dance with you too. Then you reached for his hand and took it in yours once more. Cove bit his lip as your fingers entwined together, his cheeks reddening. You returned hand in hand, with the party reaching the end of a long evening. Dancing couples had become scarce. One pair among many were hard to notice, but now the space around you would act as a spotlight. Not that there weren't many left to watch you. He was still at ease, even buoyed by the dissipated crowd. This time, there was a spring in his step as you walked onto the dancing floor together. Cove kept hold of the hand you had given him back on the little hill. Remembering your earlier attempt at dancing, he placed his hand on your waist, all on his own, though still with a touch of trepidation. Cove hesitated while you waited for his sign. With the song in progress, before you'd stepped out to dance, there was no signal for the right moment to begin. The same thought occurred to Cove, who shrugged his shoulders with keeping form. Taking that as your starting point, you cautiously began to sway. Cove readily followed your example. You danced wordlessly, dimly aware of the music guiding you. You were more focused on Cove, whose attention was firmly fastened on you. Unlike before when he had nervously looked down at his feet as if trying to keep them in check, his eyes were steady. He didn't even allow himself to be shaken when your knees knocked against each other and you both briefly fumbled your steps. Instead, he chuckled, and it was as soft as the roll of the morning tide. His lips curved into a shy crescent. You had been drifting into a dreamlike state, but that expression, one that you'd never seen before, pinned you back to reality. Your heart was caught up in a clinch, held tightly yet straining with the effort of thumping harder than it had any moment than it had after any moment of physical exertion. As if in response, his hand began to hold yours with increased strength. He pulled you ever so slightly more towards him. Thoughts about what it meant or what might happen when it was over eased, and both of you were able to simply have this dance. Time fell away as you took in the small moment. All too soon, the song reached its conclusion. You could have continued quite contentedly for some time more. You stilled, one hand of yours in his. Kove showed no sign of moving either. It was hard to let go. You heard your name called out and thought that the dance truly... You heard your name called out and that brought the dance truly to an end. You both spun to find Mom yelling for you and Kove. Beside her, Ma was shaking her head. Why did Mom, why'd you have to do that? And Ma knows like what you did wrong.
Sorry.
She's just like, whatever. It's time to go home. Lonnie, I had to get a hold of them somehow. What did you want me to do? Sneak up on them? Our dark-skinned Ma is just, she knows what's up, okay? You shouldn't have interrupted us. Her chosen method was admittedly better than that. You still wince at how dazed you had been when she announced her arrival. Kove looked so embarrassed that you seriously worried about him fleeing again. This time, you didn't think he'd stop until he was out of the grounds. Excluding the scene with your moms, it had been a perfect ending to the evening. You were so glad you got the chance to dance with Kove once more before the night was over. And it definitely was over now. You didn't need to say anything to Kove. The two of you marched wordlessly over to your parents, who were still bickering playfully. Standing shoulder to shoulder, your parents surveyed you and Kove. You wondered if they were checking that they were returning Mr. Holden's son in the same state that he'd left the house. No, he's a man now, guys. Okay, he was a boy before, and now he's a man. That was quite a night, huh, gang? Wasn't it just... Oops. Kove managed a self-conscious smile. Yeah. Ma was smiling too, with an expression so soft it could have cradled a newborn chick.
Well?
And how was your very first date? Please don't start on them already. It technically hasn't even ended yet. Fine, fine. Good. Well, we'd better get ourselves to get back to Elizabeth. If we're lucky, the house might still be standing.
Pam!
Oh, shush. She swatted your mom playfully, laughing at the comment. You cast one last look at the party. You saw people exchanging farewells and suppressing yawns. Most of the faces were happy ones, despite the weariness that was starting to creep in. Kove's head was angled away from you. As you watched, wondering what he was looking at, he came around and met your gaze. It was strange. Though it had only been a few hours of your life, you felt a little older as a result of attending the party. Dates only end in the bedrooms? Oh my god, yes. It was like a step away from the world of your childhood, where dressing up was reserved almost exclusively as a form of play, towards something new that you hadn't yet grasped. Turning away from the final moments of the party, you shelved that thought for another time, as your moms eagerly led the way back to your car. As you and Kove trailed after them, you felt childlike once more. Oh, I want you inside me, Cole Holden. I mean, Kove Holden. Did I just call him Cole? Kove. I want you inside me, Kove.